Hi, gents. I just like to go through this model with you both. Firstly, to get some feedback from you about this approach and to see if it makes sense. And secondly, just to ensure that I can use this model in this way and just your input from there. What I'm going to do now briefly is just to go through the model, my thoughts, and the underlying principles and how it's going to be tied into CSP. The central thesis is the Hoburne sales approach. Obviously, this ties in with the CSP, with the mindset and the counsellor approach. But I'm wanting to specify the Hoburne sales approach as being an understanding of who Hoburne are and how the specific parks have their own DNA, they have their own profile, and they also attract their own types of customers. This is central, and it's a point that I'm going to be taking up with the management on the 13th, but they really need to sharpen up on this and be very clear because it was extremely wishy-washy when I was walking around with all these salespeople on the various sites. There's a lot to be gained by just having a foundation to stand up on. So that's one thing that will be booted in. And then when we go out to the CSP, the relating, I've said that the relating is simply a question of matching values. And I want to tie this in with the values from Hoburne and the story with the customer's values, because then you can see if there's a match with the respective values. And also, if you're going to use a lot of time on this customer, they normally use about half a day on a customer. They need to assess whether it's a waste of time or not, because if the values aren't in place, then there's very little chance of them selling. The Hoburne story, this is really important for me to get across to the leader group. This is turned into some sort of, sales pitch. They talk about Hoburne, it's like chest beating, and it only serves to sort of lift them above the customer, as opposed to it being a genuine story about it being a family business. And these are our values. This is what we expect. This is what we provide. But it's become more of a diatribe about, we've done this and we've done that. We've been here for 119 years and we're really good and it's all good quality and stuff like that. I think that needs to be tuned. So basically what I'm doing is connecting the DNA of the park with the Hoburne story and then getting a match in terms of what the customer expects, what the customer values. So that's the relating part of it, and I think that hangs nicely together, and it's definitely going to go in terms of the leader group's interest. Connecting with that, we've got a dynamic which I need to discuss with you. If I just go down to the bottom of the screen here, you can see I've got fees, site, park, and caravan. When I went round and spoke to the various salespeople, it was unstructured, it was messy, it wasn't connected, and I just had to sort of get an overview as to what the various points they were trying to get across at. Obviously, I'm not a customer, so I don't have the information within me, but there are 4 main points, 4 packets of information that need to be provided the customer, or that the customer needs to provide the salesperson. What are the fees for the on the place? Which site suits me best? What are the park fees and all the rest of it? And which van is the most interesting for me and what's most viable? Okay, now a customer comes in, and what we want to do in the discovering phase is we want to assess them and prepare them. Assessing is, okay, where are they on the scale? Are they from one sort of, complete beginners, don't know anything, or are they part exchange people who are just looking for another caravan from another site or something like that? So it's an assessment there, but we need to establish the level of knowledge, and we can only do that by asking the questions. What I found is that it won't be a problem in terms of the training, but the CSP approach is going to be different. It's going to be, you do the discovering, you find something that's lacking, for example, fees, and then you go over and you cover that, okay? So you say, these are the fees for the site, this is the advantage of you paying these fees, the cheapest fees on the blah, blah, blah. and then you go back and you go back. So it's going to be sort of a backwards and forwards between advocating and discovering. And as I've said, as I say at the bottom here, we're getting a balance. Okay, we're trying to establish a informed customer base. So guiding the customer towards an informed buying decision. Basically, the customer will only say yes when they have all these facts, okay? And they won't say yes before that. So there's no change to the CSP manual. There's no sort of, extras. I'm going to be cutting in it if this gets approved. But you can see I'm going to be going through what sort of question types are most relevant, what sort of questions need to be asked, so that each salesperson has a checklist over which questions have to be asked within these categories. Okay, and then we've got the advocating side of things, where we need to turn out, what are the advantages of these fees? Why are this such a good site? Which caravans would you choose, and why? Okay, so basically we get built up this balance between the questions that's being asked and the information that's being said backwards and forwards. And I just repeat myself, there's a balance there. The customer's ready to say yes. Okay. I've used very little time extra on the supporting phase. The majority of focus is here, 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 and here. But that's plenty. Okay. The supporting phase is simply I'm encouraging them to keep the visits up and contact, which they do pretty well, and then possibly doing a customer assessment. From an overview point of view, this model will be supporting the CSP material. Okay. Management says yes to this, so we go into some specifics about how it's going to be tied in and what's going to be cut out of the CSP, because there's some of it that's not relevant, but I need to get this cleared with management first. What I'd like from you guys, firstly, is your feedback about, does it make sense what I'm saying? Is the model okay? It's not, believe me, it's not going to look like this. This is just a draft. I'm not a desktopper, but I'm just doing my best in terms of actually tying all these models that I've been making together into one meaningful package so that it reflects the CSP model. But please let me know what you're thinking. Obviously, if there's issues with using a model like this and it contravenes copyright or anything like that, please let me know. But yeah, so I'm there where I'm just a little bit touchy about, if I'm off track here, then we need to shut this down quickly. My gut feel is that it's going to get sold in pretty easily. They're going to think, wow, this is exactly what we wanted. But I just need your input. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll look forward to hearing from you.